What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. Brian Twining and I are here to talk all things Roval, as well as recap all that was last week. Talk about Brian hitting his fourth outright in a row, and get you set for the week that is. This is the Angle of Pursuit.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, you've done it again. 4 outrights in a row. How does that feel?
Well, if I was a little more frugal with the amount of bets that I've been actually making, I'd probably have made out a lot better. Hitting 4 outrights in a row, which is kind of unheard of in the NASCAR space. And it's not like I'm peppering the board with too many guys. Talladega, obviously, I did have, a plethora of dudes, but he was my favorite coming into the week. It was one of the first times in a while I had gone to the top of the board. I just felt like it was YRB time. And sure enough, Ryan Blaney, he grew the marbles that Tanaka was giving Pedro Serrano crap about. And he showed him that he could hit the home run. So I am ecstatic that I hit another one, but even more so, I'm just happy to see Ryan Blaney finally find victory lane again.
Yeah. We both loved Ryan Blaney almost all week. Talked a lot about him and what he could do. And then obviously he came through. He was exactly the guy we thought he could be. Very, very impressive day overall from him. Let's share the screen.
And I think overall, too, Fords really showed that in their design for 2023 definitely has an advantage at the plate tracks for drafting and all that type of stuff.
100%. And it did, all things considered, Talladega seemed somewhat in check. I think we talked a little bit about it because it's a playoff race. People are going to be a little more patient and do the right things and get you where you need to go. But it's still one of those things that we can talk about it, but until we actually see it come to fruition, that's kind of when we can see, actually that this is happening, and we can make some assumptions. So overall, decent week on DraftKings. This is actually one of our worst lineups. Ty Gibbs did not have us, apparently, as he did not finish the race, but Ty Dillon was whatever. McDowell was disappointing. He was up at the front at points, but never really stayed up there. Kyle Busch just kind of sat where he sat, and and then obviously Denny made his charge, and then Buescher. For RFK crew that had been so dominant at plate tracks all year long, and seemed like a good option, didn't quite get there. But that being said, we did have a couple better lineups. So obviously having LaJoy get a top 5 after starting 36 was really nice. Austin Spindrick, thought I might have a chance to actually get a win or flirt with one at least, and then never really got there, but did get 6th. So I appreciate him staying where he was. Eric Jones, a lot of the guys seem to stay kind of in the general area of where they started. Obviously, Stenhouse finishing 23rd was nice, but interesting week overall. And then once again, even with Blaney, as something we got to remember, even starting 10th, winning the race, was obviously 56 points is good, but not earth-shattering, not the guy you need by any means. Chase was solid too, started 23rd and finished 8th. But overall, it's just when you get 3 drivers that end up in the 50s in terms of points, it makes it a lot easier to kind of end up near the cash line. Chandler Smith, 34th, finished 12th. Good to see from the young drivers. A few of the Xfinity guys, obviously Herbst starting near the front. Chandler Smith.
That dude was incredible, by the way. The fact that he was able to maintain track position and the pushes that he was giving Ryan Blaney there at the end to propel him, to even put him into the situation that Blaney had to choose to either
Yep.
stay behind Harvick, which I think, if this is last year, Blaney probably plays it safe and stays right there. Or because, he hadn't won it so long, he actually got the gumption to make that like butt puckering dive down to the bottom lane there where he almost took the nose off of William Byron.
Yeah.
That was an incredible move by Ryan Blaney, but that was all set up by Riley Herbst's pushes.
Yep. Overall fun race, I think. Obviously enjoyable with, it got a TV during the NFL games for me, so that was really good. It was nice to have
I
the
didn't even pay attention to the football games at the end of this race, man. I was like locked in for the final 20 laps or so.
100%. It was so much fun. And then we'll look at the betting card. Obviously, we expected to have a nightmare. Eric Almirola getting the Pola, and then Cindric over McDowell. Basically covered my week. So, obviously didn't hit any outrights, but also didn't get crushed either. So it was fine. Pushed the money around, gave some back, paid the vig, whatever. Blaney, 12-1, cash it. As I mentioned, Brian's 4th straight outright in a row. Going for 5 this week. We'll see if he can keep it rolling. He is the Christopher Bell of the poll bets or the playoffs from last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, the rest of your ones. Christopher Bell, I think, was maybe him. Truex, I mean, I will say Truex was a little underwhelming, but I think given community sentiment on him and kind of where everybody thought he would finish, he basically did what everybody thought he was going to do.
Yeah. I think just overall, I don't think the Toyotas, they didn't really show up as well as what we had seen in the past. Because even Denny, yes, he manufactured a 4th place finish, but it was not easy for him to get up there. I mean, whatever pitch strategy they were on early kind of, had them fall back a little bit to where they kept losing track position. And then the third line never really came into play until really late. And you just didn't have enough guys willing to go up there to make that work, to get the Toyotas, which seemingly were all trying to do that, to work their way to the front.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it a little bit, right? It was, okay, well, in the first round of qualifying, the Toyotas looked solid, but the Fords took a huge step forward in the second round, where most of the Toyotas kind of just stayed stagnant, and ultimately that's kind of what we saw on Sunday as well. So I'll pull this up really quick if I can get it to work. Come on, there we go. So obviously William Byron win, Ryan Blaney win, are pretty locked into the playoffs. Let me make this a little bit bigger. How's that? That's better. Hamlin, 50 points to the good. He feels pretty safe. Bell, 22 points to the good. Truex, Larson, Keselowski are all there. And then we got 4 drivers: Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, and Tyler Reddick, all kind of flirting with that cut line. I guess I'll ask you this. Is there anybody in the field of 8 that you think ends up on the outside looking in come Sunday? And vice versa. I guess if so, who is the driver on the outside looking in that finds a spot?
Well, I mean, I think the most glaring one has got to be Tyler Reddick. The expectation is he's going to qualify on the first couple of rows. He's going to stay up there pretty much the entire day.
Yep.
He's going to be there in contention for the win at race ends. So I wholeheartedly believe he will get it into the round of 8 unless he gets punted late in the race, but you can never bank on that. And then, it's hard picking from the group that is in the round of 8 right now, because, guys like Martin Truex, Kyle Larson, both really good on road courses. Chris Buescher, incredible on road courses. Christopher Bell, very underrated on road courses. Denny Hamlin, who has sucked on race day at road courses, is probably going to put this up in the first couple of rows again. So
yeah, remind me to look at the poll bets and fire on him, because he's been so money a poll bet. A couple of the races, he was almost 20-1 in terms of
3 polls at road courses this year, which is unheard of for him. But he's so far up in the points. I just don't see him falling back unless he crashes early. So I mean, I think Brad Keselowski. He's going to wind up being the odd man out unless he can somehow, use strategy, which now that we have this stupid freaking stage brake cautions back, like leave it to the number 6 to be able to manufacture a good finish by taking that type of stuff into account.
Yeah, clearly good driver is going to be left out. Bubba's had a great season. This is a great spot for Reddick. If you're on the outside, even Kyle Busch has had moments on road courses. You're going to have to figure something out. Obviously, the Roval's a little bit of a unique circumstance because it's not a true road course in that stance, but
yeah,
pretty dang close. It will be interesting. I mean, obviously, it's the Elite Eight, right? We're going to have to cut some decent drivers and move forward. Truex. I still think Kyle Larson could obviously dominate this race, but if things don't go well for him, he could be on the outside looking in, and that's terrifying.
And I do think that, something I've been thinking about the last couple of days here is that I'm unsure if I really want to look at 2023 road courses too heavily because they lacked the stage brake cautions.
Yep.
And it really meant a lot to have a really fast car, where last year we had stage brake cautions, and it didn't necessarily mean that the fastest car or the best car was going to wind up winning, because if you were on the right strategy and say a caution came out at the right time for you, you had a distinct advantage over the rest of the field, because passing at these tracks are way more difficult than it on a regular oval or 1.5 type of track. So I'm finding it difficult to determine which one I want to weigh heavier when trying to handicap this race.
Yeah, it's a really tough race to do. Obviously, the track is unique, so it's not a true road course with the Roval built in. It's a unique in terms of we have stage breaks back all of a sudden, which is a bizarre move by NASCAR, given basically the whole regular season we didn't have it, and then we're going to bring it back.
I don't understand it.
And then it's just, how do you weigh all of that stuff? Who is going to ultimately stand out? I think you got to build in a little bit of who's been good on the 1.5 miles and good on road courses and has had speed. I think it's a kind of a, put it all into.
I feel like looking at cars who were good at the intermediate length runs at this year's road courses, it plays more into this style of racing as opposed to who was really good on the long runs, because we're not going to get those super long runs at this track with guys knowing that we're having the stage brake cautions.
Yeah, and it'd also be really curious that if, a Chastain, a Kyle Busch, especially a Bubba Wallace, guys on the outside, if they get a little creative, they take a big gamble, hoping it pays off, and ultimately, some of those guys might be better checkers or wreckers kind of bets rather than top 5s, top 10s matchups. They might be guys okay, I'll bet Bubba to win the race and then fade the hell out of him in matchups. Same with Kyle Busch, knowing that they honestly probably need a win or very, very close to it to legitimately make this. So let's go for that when we think about our betting card and everything this week. So it's a really compelling week.
I was just going to say, on that note, something I tweeted out today, one of the stats that correlates to that is the fact that when you look at the previous 4 Roval races, or previous 5 Roval races, no race winner on this track has won or finished 7th or better during stage 1 here. So I think it's really imperative to pay attention to the guys that are hitting a little bit early, as it, in terms of live betting, okay, this guy is going for the race win as opposed to points for this. And then also something else to keep in mind, all 5 of these Roval races, their last caution has come with 10 or fewer laps to go in this race. So, I mean, we are probably going to get chaos late, and you can almost expect that, because I think I didn't go back and look at all these, but I suspect that guys were maybe on a little bit older tires as we were in that 3rd stage, and they were trying to run long or something. So guys were getting squirrely, but yeah, it's just a couple of things to keep in mind here.
No, I think those are all phenomenal points, and I think this is going to be a great live betting opportunity to kind of figure out where people are at. But Brian, as we jump in and look at kind of the outright odds, one name on all of the points that you kept bringing up kept making sense. Guys that were strong at road courses, guys that have been good in the mile and a half, guys that have found a way to be near the front as we go to overtime and have made the move at the last second and pulled away from the pack. Perhaps a guy that has 1 mile and a half, perhaps a guy that won at Watkins Glen. Perhaps William Byron should be the first name on our betting cards, because every time you were talking, I just was marking check boxes in my brain. And I obviously, Larson's really good here. It is interesting to see not Larson, not Byron, but Chase Elliott as the favorite. And obviously,
he's been strong.
It makes sense. Like
Yes.
it's not like he's out of the playoffs. He had a rough season.
Owners Championship, Kyle.
But he's also been really good. Some of his results at road courses have been a little luckier, a little more strategy, but maybe that's what he gets. Like he knows how to play it. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Byron's got like he's already into the next round. Does he get aggressive early, try and short pit, try and do something unique to get to the front and really go for it? Or does he go, I just want a top 5. I don't care how it happens. Let me stack up the points and not worry about it. Maybe get the stage 2 victory while guys like Chase, or while guys like Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch and Ross are like, no, I got to pit now, get ahead of this. So when stage 2 ends, stage 3 starts, I can get out there and be one of the first cars.
Yeah, I mean, Elliott has won here twice before. I think he won 2 of the first 3 events here.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine betting him at 6-1 at any race right now, just because they have yet to show that they are a race winning car during Sunday. Like it's just unfathomable to me to get to this number. I mean, we've seen it at pretty much every road course this year. It's always kind of been somebody who was a little bit further down the board that you didn't really expect to wind up winning. I mean, Buescher, and then, obviously Tyler Reddick is going to be one of the favorites here, but when Martin Truex won Sonoma, he was like 30-1 to open the week. So clearly the books don't know what to do. And then again, bring up the point that we're bringing back stage break cautions. Like, are the books even aware of that, or are they adjusting correctly to that market? And I think maybe that's why they have Elliott as the favorite, because, during that time he was so good. And, I don't see why you wouldn't just skip over him and go to, I mean, the first guy for me would be Tyler Reddick. I mean, rightfully so. He should be near the top of the board just because of his past successes. And mind you, in 2022, he was absolutely incredible on road with stage breaks.
So if you're betting a 7-1, is it Reddick over Byron for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Because he's also in more of a situation where he wants to advance in the playoffs, but the expectation is this guy is probably going to be up front all day. And as good as William Byron is, I don't see it in his past.
And I also, like, with a lot of these guys, honestly, I think I'm going to proceed cautiously and get qualifying in and figure out at least an idea of where they're starting. Because, I mean, Byron may go out there, get on the pole and look like the dominant car, and maybe I end up having to bet him at 5 or end up passing because I'm an idiot and then don't like him, and then he ends up winning anyways. But 6.5 or 7 it is rough. But if I was pulling the trigger, he would definitely be the driver for me. Larson at 8.5 or 9 is really compelling, because I think if he goes and shows out,
and
he gets jumped right to the top.
Yeah, and then something else too. I'm just looking at this right now. Amongst the Xfinity and the NASCAR Cup Series, so the 10 races that we've run here in both series, out of those 10, only twice has a driver that started better than 8th, I believe, actually won the race.
That's crazy.
In the Cup Series, it was Chase Elliott, who in 2020, he won from the 2nd position. But outside of that, it's 8, 9, 10, 19. Like, so clearly starting up front is not a great storyteller as to who's going to win here. So, I mean, I think it's definitely important to watch qualifying, because with the stage break cautions, that could throw a wrench into things if there is a caution at the weird time, so.
Yeah. Obviously Larson hasn't been as dominant at road courses 14th at Coda, 8th at Sonoma, 8th at Indy Road, and then 26th at Watkins. So kind of interesting. Obviously started near the front for Indy and Watkins Glen. I don't know. He's been so strong this year and won this race a couple years ago, and he's just always a compelling option. Obviously needs to get through and put him in self, because if he can, then obviously it's Vegas and Homestead and then ultimately Phoenix. So interesting spot. If you think Larson could win the championship, it might be almost better to fire on him at 8.5 or 9, and then roll that over into either a Homestead win or even into his outright or his championship odds at that point. But interesting to think about. AJ Allmendinger is up here. Obviously interesting given his up and down season for sure, but has been really good. A guy that can really perform. And Colleague as a whole, I think, has been a little bit better down the stretch than they looked kind of at that mid part of the season. So interesting.
It's just hard at 10-1 though.
Yeah, you really got to pay. I mean, McDowell, similar area. Like if you're telling me I can bet 9-1 Larson, 9-1 Dinger, 9-1 McDowell, I think there's one name that is unlike the others in that group. What about the next range? I think this is where things get interesting, and seeing Denny price the way he is makes me very happy. But we have Truex as long as 15. We have Kyle Busch as long as 18. Denny as long as 18. Daniel Suarez, obviously a win at Sonoma last year. Been an interesting season for him and Trackhouse as a whole, as long as 20. Chris Bell, Ty Gibbs, your boy Ryan Blaney. We'll stop at Gibbs just to kind of keep it at 20-1 or less, but kind of this Truex to Ty Gibbs range. Interesting names, some potential values. Anyone that you're considering firing on now, thinking maybe they have a good qualifying effort and this number shrinks by the time race day comes around?
Ring that bell, baby.
Oh God.
Like, why not? He did it last year. He won this race to advance to the next round. So I mean, he could do it again. And he's been strong at road courses in terms of speed this year, So I've got at 20-1, because he's 20-1 at BetRivers. I'm more than willing to throw a dart on that number for a car that has been as strong as he has.
Yep. 3 straight top 10s on road courses, 9th at Sonoma, 9th at Indy Road, and then 3rd at Watkins Glen. Started in the top 10 at all 3 of those. Led 11 laps at Indy Road. Yeah. And as you mentioned, won this race last year. And has been strong at the Roval in the past. So yeah, I think if he goes out and dominates in qualifying, that number feels like a number that could be gone. So I don't fault anybody who gets to that number and takes a little piece of it for sure. Yeah, Denny's always.
Do you have any? Okay, now that we are going back to the stage break cautions, do you think that Trackhouse, who showed tremendously on road courses last year, can potentially return to that form? And a guy like Daniel Suarez, for instance, maybe not on the outright market at the 18-1 number, because I'm not betting him over Christopher Bell. Yeah. But maybe in the placement market or matchups, could be somebody to target this week, because we're going back to a type of racing that they were really good at.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a little more interesting, and I think especially because they've shown speed the past couple weeks, they're a lot more compelling than I think maybe I would have. Although Chastain at Dega wasn't the greatest, but yeah, I think I'm a little more interested. It's just hard because they're really squeezing a lot of these ranges. Kind of the next range, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Buescher, both 22. And then we start talking like Logano at 28, as long as 30, Chastain as long as 30, Harvick at 33, Austin Spindrick at 30. I know he sucks.
Don't do it.
Don't. 30-1 for a guy who can be good on road courses.
He can be, but he hasn't been. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't have speed. They do not have speed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he was good at Coda, and then it's been like a struggle bus at Sonoma, Indiana, Glen. So, Brian, why do you always have to talk me out of all these things that I really want to do?
now, the guy right after him, if somebody wants to completely F up the playoffs, I think Alex Bowman, as we've heard it before, he backed into a race. He's a hack. He's a this. He's had speed at road courses this year. And if anybody is going to throw this thing for a wrench, I think the number 48 could be that guy. And at 35-1,
Yeah.
I don't mind anybody if they want to throw like a quarter unit or something on this play.
Especially because he could be somebody that, if we're talking on Saturday night, looked really good in qualifying, and all of a sudden that number is like 15 or 17 or something. And, you're getting cutting it in half, giving a guy near the front, give him a shot. He could do some weird stuff and not really worry about it because he's out of the playoffs.
And I think it's also important to keep in mind that, yes, he missed last year's race, but of the 5 races that we've had at the Roval, he's only run 4. He still has the highest average finish of inside 7th at this tracks. He has a 4th, a 2nd, an 8th, and a 10th. So this guy is good at the Roval. And he's also somewhat of an underrated road course racer with stage breaks prior to 2023, in my opinion, as somebody who was consistently finishing near or inside the top 10. So, I mean, if you don't like him on the outright market, maybe somebody to consider in that for placements or matchups, again, kind of like Suarez potentially.
Yeah, and he feels like somebody that if you get the right matchups and he qualifies well, those numbers flip, and all of a sudden he's gone from the underdog to the favorite pretty easily.
Yep.
I like where your head's at. Any interests? I think at this point we've gone too far, and we should just
you're getting into guys that I mean, I'm sorry, but unless we get like the last lap big one at a road course, those guys have zero chance.
So in terms of outrights actually going on your card, do you have any, and if so, who?
So Christopher Bell, 20-1. I'm throwing that on there, half a unit.
Yep.
I am intrigued by Bowman. I'm going to talk myself into this, so I am going to do that for a quarter unit.
So you're going to talk me out of Austin Spindrick, but you're going to talk yourself into Alex the Showman Bowman. Interesting.
Alex Bowman versus Austin Cindric? Look, neither of them are like juggernauts, but
I really hope that is a matchup, because that we haven't had a show bet in a little while, and that would be hilarious.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely Team Bowman in that one for sure.
Okay. I'm adding Dennis Hamlin.
You're gonna get there with Denny?
Hey, he's 18-1. I'm good with that. I know he's had some less than ideal runs at road courses after putting it near the front, but Chicago was kind of its own animal, and then Sonoma, and I don't know. I'm not, and he's been so damn good down the stretch.
Yeah, no, he's probably been the most consistent car.
And the stage breaks might be something that's good for him, because him and his crew chief are right? Into that. And I'm going to add William Byron. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to bet the guys that I like. I don't care really what the price is on some of these people. And
that makes sense.
I trust him to be good. I trust him to find speed. And you want to talk about a team that has just consistently made good decisions and been smart and effective in the pits. I mean, William Byron's pit crew has been, if not the best, amongst the 2 or 3 best all season long, in terms of speed, in terms of efficiency, making good decisions, putting him in place. Maybe I'm getting too cute because he doesn't really need the win, so he can be a little smarter. But I think if he's anywhere near the front, especially at a place so close to where Hendrick is, it's easy to see him go for the win and get it.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that play there.
And I'm not going crazy on the outright card this week, so that may be the end of it. We'll see what qualifying has for us and what numbers we get. But Byron at 7 and Danny at 18 for a unit and a half. Brian has Bowman at 20 and Bell at 35 for like an eighth of a unit combined. let's shift our focus and see if we can't get absolutely smashed in the top 10 market this week. Maybe we'll find some values. Maybe I'm getting a little more optimistic. Minus 118 on Martin Truex is kind of interesting. I don't really love laying juice, but that
He's
feels
not really good at the Roval.
that's
Now,
true. But he's also like been so much better just kind of in general this year and shown more speed. Although last week not so much. So maybe maybe that speed that he had for the majority of the season is kind of hitting fumes.
yeah,
Busher at plus 115.
that's actually pretty good.
Spindrick at plus 140.
No.
That doesn't that doesn't
Why do you keep gravitating to Austin Cindric? You're gonna hate yourself come Sunday when he's the first one that spins out and gets into the gravel pit or something and he
that
can't get out.
yeah, no, that's completely fair.
Or he's the first one that misses one of the corners and then has to sit there and stop, wait for basically the entire field to pass him and then go again.
Why do you speak such facts? I can literally picture that in my head. Him just like
Exactly.
stuck waiting for everyone to drive by.
Yeah, because he drives it in too hard into a corner because he's getting
Yeah.
too aggressive.
Maybe I see a lot of myself when I'm sim racing in Austin Cindric, and I just want to project it into victory lane.
Very true. Very true.
All right, there's somebody on the board that you're going to throw on the card. Speak facts.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna throw the Bubba plus 350 top 10 on the card here. The Roval is actually one of his better road courses. I mean, it's his best road course. He's got a 14th and a top 10 the last two times he's come here. That I think the Roval, it doesn't level out the playing field, but it definitely brings guys who aren't necessarily the greatest road course racers a little bit closer to the other ones because we do have those mini sections of an oval where it's, getting around corners fast and taking the correct angles and all that type of stuff. I mean, obviously Bubba fits into the same category as Austin Cindric as somebody who could possibly overdrive a corner and wreck himself out of the race, but he needs points. And unless he's, riding in the back pretty much the entire day, like I think he's got the equipment to stay inside the top 10 for the majority of the race. And especially too, say we get a Brad Keselowski that wrecks out early and say Tyler Reddick is winning the race, but then you also have, maybe Ryan Blaney or he already won. Maybe Kyle Larson. Remember, Kyle Larson is not good under pressure for all intents and purposes and what we've seen.
It's funny that because it's like he's great when he's out by himself and running with a few second lead, and that could easily happen. But if it's close and we get a late restart and all kinds of stuff happens, it'll be interesting. Bubba's been. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the old type of talk about Bubba Wallace was that he would get in his head and then he would basically throw away races too early because he got too frustrated. But it seems like he's kind of leveled out a little bit. I mean, even at Talladega, he was okay doing what the team was saying and just riding around and trusting the process. And yeah, they didn't get the finish they wanted, but he seems to be in a better place in terms of racing on Sundays and just taking what's given to him rather than trying to do too much. So I do think that a top 10 is definitely plausible here at a track that he's done it before at.
Well, and he's just improved significantly as a driver, I guess, overall. But for a driver that used to basically finish in the high 20s or low 30s at every road course, got a 7th last year, as you mentioned, top 10 in last year's Roval, got a 17th at Sonoma, got an 18th at Indy Road, and a 12th at Watkins Glen. So this is a guy who's getting better on road courses. He's figuring stuff out. I think having Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin in his corner definitely helped. And that car is just getting better. So, sim racing and all that good stuff too. So I don't hate it. I won't be joining you on it, but I think it makes a lot of sense and don't fault you for going there one bit. This one is really interesting. Verstappen to win and Kyle Larson. You get it up to 12-1. It's probably still not a fair price, but given
I have zero interest in betting anything F1.
I know. But if you're telling me I can get the same bet I won at basically, if I don't know, it's almost like a free boost. That's how I feel about it.
Race to turn 1.
I
All
know
right. Okay.
you hate F1. I get it.
Here's a market I think you could look at Austin Cindric and throw a tiny bet on it and just basically bet it and forget it.
Top
Ford. Okay. Michael McDowell, there's no effing way that he should be plus 175. I know he's been incredible this year at the road courses, but going back to the stage break cautions, that kind of brings the field together because it doesn't matter how far ahead you are of somebody. If you're not on the same pit cycle, or say you got all that track position because you were running long, that's all deleted once we hit the stage break caution.
Yeah. So it's interesting you point that out. I'm actually I like where the market you've driven me to, but I'm actually gonna slight pivot. Christopher Buescher plus 550 to top Ford. Has been great at road courses. We go all the way back to 2022 in Sonoma, where he was second. He was sixth at Indy Road, 10th or sixth at Road America, 10th at Indy Road, 9th at Watkins Glen, 6th at this very course. And then this year he was 8th at Coda, 4th at Sonoma, 11th at Indy, and 7th at the Glen. And he's also in a position where if he's like third and the Hendrick boys and maybe Denny or Bell are up front, he has no need to push it. Like he can just get his third or fourth or fifth, cash that, be right where he needs to be, and have a very real shot at a top Ford without necessarily needing a win. So I'm going to add don't call me Christopher Buescher, as the top Ford at plus 550.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
Yeah, I think that's a nice value. And yeah, Michael McDowell is fine, but like to be 3 times the odd as basically any other Ford driver seems silly. And
yeah, it's ridiculous.
given the rest of his names, Logano, Blaney, Harvick, Briscoe, Kozlowski, like none of these are striking fear into your in terms of Ford drivers. So like I think Cindric and Buescher both make sense. And honestly, I could add Cindric too and be fine. But
well, I also think somebody like Ryan Blaney, for the same reasons that we talked about Denny Hamlin and William Byron last week going into Talladega.
Yeah.
Like I think Blaney, now having the wind under his belt, he's been good at the Roval before. So he is somebody to keep an eye on as a potential sleeper here. Like, especially if he doesn't necessarily qualify great, but say he has decent practice times, he's somebody that could go for another win and not care about his winning position or his finishing position because he already has that win locked up.
Yep. Top Toyota. Once again, we have one car separating from the pack. Reddick obviously has been really good, but Hamlin at plus 420 is kind of interesting. Bell at plus 550, I think is.
I was just going to say, I'd rather go to Bell here.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have the Bell on the outright. I have Hamlin on the outright.
Oh,
you're not
true.
the same. But I think both are incredibly compelling at their number. Obviously, yes, Reddick was probably the best Toyota going into the weekend. But that seems like a bridge too far. And the Christopher Bell story is always the Christopher Bell story. Something is going to happen in stage 3. His pit crew is going to make a dumb decision. He's going to make a dumb decision. His crew chief's going to make a dumb decision. He's going to go speeding into his pit box. Something's going to happen.
Well, why do you have to make sense with that then?
Sorry for applying logic and reason. I am going to add the Denny number because if he does what I think he can do in qualifying, I think that number is probably cut in half. And so I'm going to grab a piece of it and see what I can finagle together. All right, let's see. Top Chevy, Chase, Byron, Larson, Dinger, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Bowman at 18-1. I guess, how confident are you that because the 300 guys are so far above everyone else and Dinger at road courses, probably, or at least competing for a win if they don't get it. So, this might be a nice supplemental bet, but the odds probably aren't where they should be in terms of what we'd like to bet it at.
Yeah, no, that's so it's hard to get there with, I mean, I think Elliott is probably the best one of these top Chevy bets because he is the favorite. And
Yeah.
it takes away the risk of him having to win because you have a guy like Reddick or, I mean, you have Chris Buescher who's been incredible at road courses, or even Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., whatever, that could all win this race and he could finish fourth and you still cash this, even if he is the by far strongest Chevy. So I think really in this market, it's Chase Elliott or bust from the top Chevy guys.
Yeah, because even like top 3, he's 2-1. So,
well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like you definitely mitigate a lot of risk there by.
I think if you like Elliott, grabbing this number now, assuming he qualifies well in that number, and maybe his outright goes down to 4 or 4.5 to 1, and you're sitting on some value there. I think that makes sense. All right, let's get the bets I want to get in terms of fastest qualifier. Tyler Reddick 5-1, Elliott 5-1, Byron 7-1, Kyle Larson 8.5. That's kind of interesting. The Dinger at 10. If you think the Dinger is going to have a good week, grabbing him to pull it is probably the move. Ooh, they crushed us, Brian. 10-1 on Denny.
They've picked up on the trend there.
Do we want a piece of that?
No, I don't know if I could get there 10-1 though, especially because we were getting 20-1.
Yeah, I think between 16 and 20 was basically what he was at all those events. I mean, Christopher Bell at 12-1, and then you fade him in outrights the rest of the way. Sounds kind of fun.
Yeah,
any values you like? Bowman, Harvick,
yeah, I'm like looking at Bowman, but I don't think the number is long enough.
Chastain at 28. I know he doesn't typically qualify well.
They do not qualify well.
But when he qualifies well, he qualifies well.
He's reverted back to like shitty qualifying Chastain, but then also reverted back to like mediocre driver Watermelon Man as well. So
shitty overall.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna add anything.
I don't know. I don't have a strong lean this week.
Really bums me out. I was excited to fire on this for sure. Okay. Anything else? Should we go look at some matchups? Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman minus 105 versus Logano in qualifying.
I know, because Logano somehow pulls rabbits out of his ass, and like, I don't know.
Hamlin over Larson.
No, I'm not betting that shit again on qualifying. No
C Bell over McDowell. They're both minus 115.
I have to have like a distinct edge here.
They're pretty good at matching people up. This one actually I think makes sense, despite the rabbit out of the butt thing.
Yeah,
that's interesting. All right, and then in terms of race, we have Tyler Reddick is a dog to Chase Elliott. Given where every other market is that an overreaction? Should these be basically even?
Honestly, I feel like that should be even, just based on past history on road courses. But of late, Elliott has really come on strong. Like, they've had decent speed. They've had good cars. He's good on road courses, or at least he was. So I almost feel like maybe they're basing this too much on his past, but.
Well, and there is a wider range of outcomes for Reddick, including wrecking and having issues because he's pushing a little too hard, where Elliott may or may not do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's really compelling. Bowman, Briscoe, Hamlin, Gibbs, Dinger, McDowell. I mean, given where McDowell is, to get him at plus 100 versus Allmendinger is kind of interesting. Ooh, what about Busher plus 100 against Chris Bell? I
I
know you.
can't do that. I like Christopher Bell to win. It's a good number. Look, if you're not looking through my vision of thinking Christopher Bell has a legit chance to win here, I definitely like that number based on what we've seen at road courses this year, for sure.
Welcome to the card. Welcome to the card. That has a chance to be my best bet, Brian Twining.
Woo!
Harvick over Chastain. Larson at plus 100 versus William Byron. Obviously, I think if you tell me there's 3 laps to go and Larson and Byron are near the front, I'm going to bet Larson. I'm going to bet Byron every
I bet
time.
Byron for sure, yeah.
But given the range of outcomes and kind of, I mean, I guess given the outright prices, I don't know. It's interesting. Stenhouse Bubba, Jones Haley, Logano Blaney, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex. Let's see here. Let's go over here and see if there's anything else we need to hit on before we give the people a said best bet and get out of here. Logano Blaney, Chastain, Logano, Denny versus Gibbs. Denny versus Suarez. Oh, baby. I found a way to get some Cindric exposure.
Oh my gosh.
What are we
He's doing
doing?
it, folks.
Harvick is a favorite? No, thank you. No, thank you. All right.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna add that.
Truex versus Kyle Busch. Suarez versus Kyle Busch. Yeah, I think that's a good bet. Brian is adding. Oh, I haven't gotten to it yet, have I? Reddick at plus 108. Sheesh.
It's a good number.
Yeah, and I got plus 100 on Busher. Busher versus Blaney is minus 115. It's interesting. Larson versus the Dinger. McDowell versus the Dinger. McDowell versus Reddick. Yeah, that was it right there. Hold on. Coming up. Christopher Bell versus Tyrone Gibbs.
Yeah, I'm definitely hitting Bell
minus
over
120.
Gibbs.
Yeah.
Gibbs has been great. He's been fast, but I mean, at every friggin' track, there's always something that goes wrong. Last week, it was dragging his friggin' gas can into pit road and starting a friggin' fire.
Is that not what you want to do? That's frowned upon. Is that what?
Yes, yeah, that is definitely not how you want to go about your day at the racetrack.
No, generally setting pit road on fire is not the move. Yeah, no, I think that's it. Anything else we should look at before we get out of here?
Yeah, I definitely think like practice is going to tell us a lot because we're going to get to see, obviously, again, who's got speed, but then I think it'll give us a little more baseline of who we think is going to be good this weekend. And then you get to factor in who's good at strategy and who isn't.
Yeah, guys like Joey Logano could be in play a lot more than we expect. Brad Keselowski, anyone that's basically Brian's nemesis is probably going to be in play to have a good day.
Yeah, Keselowski's going to win, watch, because he's the race that nobody thinks he's going to win. When everybody thought Talladega, all of those other tracks, everyone's like, oh, Keselowski's going to be great. And then he winds up being mediocre. And then he's going to come into this weekend. He's going to win the damn Roval.
So in general, play your card, or especially early, for potential value. Guys that you think when we get to race day, the number is going to be significantly shorter. And then obviously you can jump on value at that point. But I added Hamlin 18. I added Byron at 7. Those are my only 2 outrights. I have Busher to be top Ford. I have Hamlin to be top Toyota. I have Busher over Bell at plus 100. And I have Cindric over Harvick at minus 110. Brian, break down your card and give the people your favorite bet as we sit here Wednesday evening.
Yeah, so right now I got 3 outrights. Christopher Bell, 20-1. I think he's my favorite value. Alex Bowman, 35-1.
Yep.
And then I had to add the Red Dog. He's rocking another amazing Jordan paint scheme this weekend. 8-1 is a really good number. If he puts this anywhere near the front, this number is getting closer to Chase Elliott.
Yep.
Bubba top 10, just throwing a dart here. Bubba over Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and then Christopher Bell over Ty Gibbs. And I got to go Bubba over Stenhouse as my best bet as we sit here right now, because Bubba's still fighting for something, and Stenhouse, although fighting for, respect and just having a really good finish to the season, Bubba is going to be the safer play, I believe. And so I think he's going to finish well ahead of Ricky Spinhouse.
Yeah. I like where your head's at. I am going to go with a matchup as well, and I'm going to go with the one I added last. I expect the Spindrick to have a nice day. I wanted some exposure to him. I got it. Fading Kevin Harvick. It's been a great run, Kev. You were an elite driver for a long, long time. Right off into the sunset, but this is not your week to pop up. So Spindrick anywhere near the top 10, it should be fine. I'm getting -110 to get paid out on it.
I mean, you don't have an even amount of units on outright, so you might as well just throw the rest to even it out on a Cindric, whatever the hell the number was, even though I wouldn't touch that.
Is that better?
There we go.
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let us know down in the comments what you guys are looking at. Anyone you're really excited to see this week? Anyone that you're expecting quality results out of? Are you betting anybody to win the poll? If so, let us know. Is Denny Hamlin at 10-1 something you're interested in? If not, let us know. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. We'll be back recorded Saturday night. We'll be in your feed Sunday morning, hopefully with another outright winner from Brian Twining. We'll talk to you next time.